Okay, to start a little bit of the theory about mixing different curls in one set, even if you're going to do the spikes look. So for example, here I'm comparing 10 millimeters and C and D curl. Everything else is the same, it's just the curl is different. And what we see now on this, that the C is actually so much lower than D. So that means in my brand, it's nearly 2 millimeters of a difference. So if we consider this line as the natural eyelashes, where we apply the lash, you can see that the C curls up and ends nearly up to the line here. And the D applied on the same natural lash, obviously because it's curlier, it comes up higher. With the same length, C and D would look totally different. That means if you are mixing in curls inside your set, you need to consider that as well. So how to use that inside the set, for example, this one with the spikes. So how this information is going to help us to plan the map for the eye and how it's going to help us in mixing the curls. So for example, my base was done already with the D. And remember, for the spikes, we have to choose at least 3 millimeters more, plus 3 millimeters. So the spikes are going to be plus 3 millimeters from that base, yeah? So for example, in here, my base was 9 millimeters, 9D, yeah? In the 9D, the problem is if you're going to use 9D plus 3, it's going to be 12D. But the problem is if you're going to take 12C here, it's going to be equal in my brand. 12C is equal to 10D only. So that's why you may not see the spike, because the 10D would look like only 1 millimeter higher, not the 3 millimeters as we wish. That's why we're going to use plus 2, since we know the rule of mixing curls. So we're supposed to be 12D, there should be 14C. So instead of 12D, it's going to be 14C. And that's going to be 3 millimeter higher than a 9. That's going to be your spike. And that's usually one of the reasons why we're trying to do the spikes in a different curls and something does not work, or there is a big difference, or you can see those little steps in the length like this going kind of up and down on the lash sets. That's because if you're mixing curls in the set, you need to be careful how you do it and need to plan everything ahead and to write everything down on the map. And then you will have your spikes. There was 10, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Obviously on the client you will see it on the open eye where to put those spikes. So in here my spike is supposed to be 8 plus 3. So we're using the base as a D, as you said, for example. So we use base, D curl, spikes, C curl. So the base is 8 and that spike is in the 8. So we remember that we said that the spikes are going to be plus 3 sizes up. In section 8, we decided that our spikes are going to be plus 3 sizes to see that difference, that they stick out. So from D, if I was using D spikes and D base, I would use 8 plus 3 will be 11. 11D. But my 11D is not the same as 11C. If I'm going to use 11C in here, remember the rule -2 in my brand, and it will be equal to 9 millimeters only. That's the reason sometimes we cannot see spikes in case we are using different length in the spikes. So if there was only 1 millimeter of the difference, so if you were using 11C thinking you're going to go up 3 sizes, realistically on the open eye you're only going 1 millimeter up. So that means 11D in my brand is looking like 13C. So in here, my spike, if you're using the C curl, not going to be 11, is going to be 13C. Just to have a 3 millimeter difference between here. Same up here. If I'm going to use the spike in the section of 7D, I would think 7 plus 3 sizes up for a spike to see the difference is going to be 10D. So for the 10D, my equal C to that is going to be plus 2 sizes more. So that's going to be 12C. And that's why the mapping is so important. So you will see on the open eye the result that you want to achieve. So because there is this difference between the lash length on the open eye, although it's the same length realistically if we stretch that eyelash, but because of the curl it looks different. So that's why it's important not to confuse yourself and to map everything and to think about everything before you start doing anything. So in this section of 9D, I would want to have the spike, for example, and 9D plus 3 is going to be 12D. But 12D is plus 2, going to be 14C. So in here, I would have to use 14C just to have a 3 millimeter difference between 9 and 14 on the open eye look. I hope this helped. If you have any more questions, let me know.